Well, fantasy football season approaching in the next few weeks. He's the top 40 wide receivers I'm ranking. So after doing 12 drafts, breaking down first to 12th pick, now I'm coming out with my rankings at the wide receiver position. Number one overall, Ja'Marr Chase. He's my number one overall pick going into the season. Last year, monster year. He got the monster contract. No doubt about it, was Ja'Marr Chase. And him and Joe Burrow, they've been locked in since college days. They got the great rapport. He's a great wide receiver, and there's not much to say. You just know when you get Chase, he's going to put up numbers week in and week out. Number two, Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings. So definitely there's argument for him or CeeDee Lamb to become the number two receiver. But I just think Justin Jefferson, he's been just a bit more consistent throughout his NFL career. We know Jefferson's a big-time wide receiver. I know McCarthy, it's his first year as a starter. Now we'll see what he does. But last year, a lot of people doubted Jefferson, and he was down there in the ranks later in the first round with Darnold, a quarterback. But it just doesn't matter the quarterback, in my opinion, for Justin Jefferson. He's quarterback proof. He can run all the routes. He can make the plays. And just the way in this system they get him open, I think he'll just be a little bit better than CeeDee Lamb. Number three, CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys. He's been a monster since he was drafted 5 years ago with CeeDee Lamb. Him and Dak Prescott have put up some big seasons, no doubt about it. And even last year, with Dak out the majority of the season, he didn't really miss a beat with CeeDee Lamb. So now with George Pickens in this offense, I think less coverage of double teams is going to be rolled his way, where teams got to respect Pickens as well. And this is easily the best number two wide receiver he's played with in his short career as Lamb. So once again, like I said, it wouldn't be surprising if he beats Jefferson out, but I just prefer Jefferson. But you can't go wrong either way. Number four, Puka Nacua of the Los Angeles Rams. So now the number one wide receiver over there in Los Angeles. Cooper Kupp gone, signed with Seattle. And obviously Devontae Adams they brought in, but Puka Nacua, it's his time. And in his first 2 years in the Sean McVay system, he's already one of the best wide receivers in all pro football. Another guy who fits the system like a glove. Great hands, good PPR player. And the system gets him open, especially with his route tree and crisp route running. So I know it's close between him, St. Brown, Nico Collins, but I just believe Puka Nacua has a little bit of a higher ceiling. Number five, Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Detroit Lions. Last season, another monster year, 115 receptions. Him and Goff have been locked in the last few years, and he really broke out in the second half of 2021 with St. Brown, and he never looked back. So one of the better possession receivers in the league, no doubt about it. And he goes out there and makes plays. So, like I said, all these guys are close from this 4 to 7 range. But I think Amon-Ra St. Brown a little bit more consistent he's been and not injured like a Nico Collins. And even Neighbors missed some games the last couple of years. Number 6, Nico Collins of the Houston Texans. So this Texan team, they don't have much going on in the wide receiver room. Obviously, Stephon Diggs, he tore that ACL. He left. He went to the Patriots. Tank Dell out for the season, breaking his leg last year. Easily going to get peppered with targets a whole lot is Nico Collins. I know they traded for Christian Kirk. They drafted the rookie Jaden Higgins. But this is Collins' wide receiving room, and him and Stroud have a great rapport. And he signed a nice contract extension last season. So I think Nico Collins goes out there and has a big year. 7, Malik Neighbors of the New York Giants. So last season I was big on Neighbors coming in, and he stepped up and had a monster rookie season with no quarterback play. Just imagine, he was putting these numbers up, over 100 receptions was Neighbors, with quarterbacks like Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, Daniel Jones for a little bit. And now here, Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston, most likely Wilson's going to start. I think he's going to go out there and he could put even up better numbers, where they don't really have a number 2 option in the passing game. I know they got Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton, but Malik Neighbors, he's been a matchup problem. He's a great ball player. And like I said, from the 4 to 7 range, I couldn't argue if you took one of these guys over another, but I just prefer this order. Number 8, Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Talk about a breakout rookie year. Thomas Jr. had a monster rookie year last season. And also as well, Trevor Lawrence, he was out majority of the season. Mac Jones was thrown to him at the end of the year, and he was putting up these numbers. So now with Travis Hunter in the lineup as well, these guys are going to go out there and put up numbers, I believe, for this Jacksonville Jaguar team. And I'm big on Brian Thomas. He's a great route runner. He's got the size advantage, obviously, on most corners and most safeties. And he can run all the routes and make the plays. And like I said, with poor quarterback play, he was putting up numbers. Now, if Lawrence gets back to form like he was a few years ago, imagine the numbers Thomas could put up. Number 9, Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons. So Drake London, he's been solid the last couple of years. Now Michael Penix, the full-time quarterback going into the year, where last season it was Kirk Cousins. And Penix, I think it could be a breakout year for him. They took him with the 8th pick overall in last season's NFL draft for a reason. And Drake London, he could run the routes. In his draft class a few years ago, one of the better receivers. And so far, he's lived up to it. And he had over 100 catches last year. Number 10, A.J. Brown of the Philadelphia Eagles. So A.J. Brown, big playmaking, no doubt about it, ability he has is A.J. Brown. But the thing with him in this offense, obviously with Jalen Hurts rushing the football himself, the tush push, and also Saquon Barkley coming off a 2,000-yard season, and he's going to be fed 270, 300 times. I think Brown's stock drops off a little bit, but still, A.J. Brown, he's going to put up numbers. But like I said, he's out of the top 5, like where last season going into the year, he was a top 10, 11 pick overall in fantasy drafts. 11, Ladd McConkey of the Los Angeles Chargers. Ladd McConkey, what a rookie season it was for him last season. And there's not much in that receiving room as well. I know they brought back Keenan Allen, but I don't think he's going to be a threat at all at 33 years old to McConkey's job. But these guys, it could be a very nice 1-2 combo and great possession receivers. But like I said, Ladd McConkey really turned it on in the second half last year, including in the playoff game. He had over an 80-yard touchdown where he's got home run ability. And like I said, with his hands and his route running ability and a matchup problem with his speed, he's going to be a nice receiver once again for fantasy owners. Number 12, Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins. I'm big on Hill than other people, and right now to get him in the 3rd, 4th round is great value for Tyreek Hill. We know he's been an elite receiver for many seasons in his career, and as long as Tua is healthy and Hill doesn't have off the field things obviously concerning him and taking his focus off, I think Hill could go out there and be good. So like I said, Hill, he could bounce back this season, and it wouldn't be surprising to me if he could be a guy that finishes the year in that top 5 to 8 range if he gets back on track. Number 13, Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm higher on Evans than some other sites and other fantasy analysts. Mike Evans, 11 years in a row, 1,000 yards. Him and Baker Mayfield have a good rapport. And the other thing is as well, Chris Godwin, it's not looking good. He's going to be ready for week 1. So that's more targets for Mike Evans. He's still a matchup nightmare. He's a touchdown maker in that red zone with the 6'6", 6'7" height is Mike Evans. And he just goes out there and makes the plays. So this season, I'm still in on Evans. I know he's at the latter part of his prime, but the track record shows for itself. 14, Davante Adams of the Los Angeles Rams. So Davante Adams, last year with the New York Jets, he did good once he was traded away from the Vegas Raiders to the Jets. Him and Aaron Rodgers had a good rapport, obviously going back to their Green Bay Packer days. And right now, Davante Adams here in this Sean McVay system, I think it put up a nice year. And he got a nice boatload of money as well in his new contract. So Adams, always a good route runner, good hands. And now to play in this offense, even though Matthew Stafford, obviously, he might be banged up with the disc issue, I still think Davante Adams and Puka Nacua arguably could be the best 1-2 receiving combo in all the NFL. 15, T. Higgins of the Cincinnati Bengals. So last season, T. Higgins, it was a monster year. Him and Jamar Chase both got paid big money to stay with Joe Burrow on this Cincinnati Bengal team. But the thing is, with T. Higgins, injuries have always been a problem. And even last season, he missed a decent amount of ball games, even though in the games he played, he put up huge numbers. But I think this season he takes a little bit of a step back. Is T. Higgins, no doubt about it, a solid wide receiver, but I just don't feel comfortable taking him in that 2nd round range. If he was a late 3rd, early 4th rounder, I like where he would fall. But I still think T. Higgins has a good year, but it doesn't match what he did last season. And these other receiver ceilings are just a little bit higher than his. 16, Garrett Wilson of the New York Jets. So the Jets paid the man. The big money is Garrett Wilson. And we've seen him with horrible quarterbacks over the last few seasons, even though Rodgers I thought was decent last year, but the Zach Wilsons, this Jet team, and then journeyman quarterback who started here and there over the last few seasons, and Rodgers last year, so Wilson got paid. He's a big-time playmaker. You're going to get 90 to 100 grabs. I know Justin Fields is in there quarterback, and he's a run-first quarterback, but a couple years ago, we saw DJ Moore have a monster year with Justin Fields at the quarterback position. So I think Garrett Wilson, he'll be fine, and a nice 3rd, 4th round pick for fantasy owners. 17, Jackson Smith-Njigba of the Seattle Seahawks. So JSN last year came off a monster year, especially second half. He was operating as the number 1 pretty much last season was JSN. With DK Metcalf, he didn't do much in the second half. So he had over 100 catches, But now Sam Darnold, the quarterback over there with Geno and JSN, really working on rapport. And I know Darnold last season had a monster year, but then fell off in the second half. So JSN, he might be higher on other boards and sites. So I'm a little bit in the middle with him at 17. 18, Marvin Harrison of the Arizona Cardinals. So last season, a lot of pop in fantasy leagues. He was going in the second round. A lot was Marvin. He didn't live up to the hype, unfortunately. And it's tough for a rookie receiver to come out right away unless you're Randy Moss and put up these monster numbers from the get-go. But Marvin Harrison, I think this year has a better year. But Trey McBride's still the number one option, in my opinion, in that passing game. But Marvin, he'll have a better year. He bulked up in the offseason. Him and Kyler still working on the rapport, getting things better. 19, DK Metcalf of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So DK Metcalf got his contract. He got paid, traded off to the Steelers. Got Aaron Rodgers, arguably the best quarterback he's played with, even though Geno's been decent at times. Even at 40, 41 years old, I think Rodgers is still got the arm strength. And last season, we saw Garrett Wilson and Adams with the New York Jets put up numbers with Rodgers at quarterback. So I think Metcalf's going to be fine, and they don't really have a nice number two option in the passing game. You could say Jonnu Smith, but he just caught fire at the end of last year, and that was with Miami, where Aaron Rodgers isn't a quarterback that targets a tight end much as well. So his number one wide receivers going through the years have put up numbers. Number 20, Xavier Worthy of the Kansas City Chiefs. So Worthy, he's going to be the number one, I believe. Rashee Rice, his suspension is looming, obviously. It should be coming down any time now, I believe, for Rice. So Rice, I was big on him coming into the year. If there was no suspension and the legal stuff he was free of, but obviously not. And Worthy last season, he stepped up in the second half and especially in the playoffs for this Chiefs team. And Patrick Mahomes, if Mahomes could get back to where he was a couple years ago in terms of putting up numbers, Worthy could have a monster year. 21, Tatoria McMillan of the Carolina Panthers. So I'm big on McMillan coming into the year. He's going to be the number one wide receiver easily for this Carolina Panther team. Big 6'4", wide receiver. Best receiver coming out this season in the NFL draft. I know there was other landing spots possibly. Dallas Cowboys were a possibility and stuff, but he lands in Carolina. And let's be honest, this Carolina Panther team, they're going to be trailing early and often. And McMillan and this team's going to throw the football a whole lot. So like I said, he can run all the routes. He's a polished wide receiver. That's why he was the best guy coming out of college at the position. And he's going to be a matchup problem at 6'4". 22, DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears. So DJ Moore, I mentioned early in the video, 2 years ago had a monster year with Fields at quarterback, and last season with Caleb Williams, it was a mixed bag of results with DJ Moore. So I'm a little bit down on him this season. And now they added even more weapons to this offense with the talented tight end Loveland they drafted 10th pick in this season. Rome Odunze is going to get more of a role with him as well, a top pick in the NFL draft. And also Luther Burden they added. So a lot of guys in this wide receiver room that can make plays. And like I said, Caleb Williams and DJ Moore, they were just off last season. Even Keenan Allen last year had some better games than DJ Moore as well when he was at the Bears. 23, Terry McLaurin of the Washington Commanders. So Terry McLaurin, he's in a contract dispute right now. I was never a big McLaurin guy. I know last season he had a monster year with first-year quarterback Jaden Daniels, and arguably already the best quarterback he's played with, Scary Terry, in his career. But other factors are teams are going to catch on a little bit to Daniels and make adjustments. We'll see how he adjusts to that. And Deebo Samuel's there as well, where we know you could use him in a different line of formations and even out of the backfield. So with those factors, and if he's not happy with the contract, and let's say he reports week one and they've come to a deal, he could get slow out of the gate. So I'm a little bit down on Scary Terry than other people. 24, Zay Flowers of the Baltimore Ravens. So Zay Flowers, he's been solid the first two seasons in the NFL, but we know this is a run-first team. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. Obviously, you got Mark Andrews, who's been a solid tight end for many seasons over there in Baltimore. But Zay Flowers is explosive wide receiver. He's got home run hitting ability, but just volume is what worries me. But I still think he's a top 24 and a decent number two option on your fantasy roster. 25, George Pickens of the Dallas Cowboys. So arguably, this is the best quarterback he's going to play with in his career is Pickens and Dak Prescott. It is a contract season as well. And also to have CeeDee Lamb, where a lot of defense attention is going to be rolled to him. He's going to get one-on-one coverage Pickens. We know he's a burner. We know he makes acrobatic grabs. And I think this could be a solid season for him. So he's a nice 5th, 6th round pick in fantasy leagues. 26, Rashee Rice of the Kansas City Chiefs. So Rice, suspension's looming for him. or he would have been a top 15 option for me going into the season, because before he tore that knee up last season, he was putting up numbers, and him and Patrick Mahomes have been on the same page since Rice got into the league a couple seasons ago. So like I said, with the suspension looming, you don't want to use a third, fourth round pick on a guy who can miss multiple ball games. And right now, that's why he's down 27. Devonta Smith of the Philadelphia Eagles. So Smith, last season, injury-plagued year a little bit. And now with Saquon Barkley there last season, we saw everyone in the receiving game take a backseat, where you got run first options, obviously, like Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley going to get the 300 touches, and A.J. Brown, the number one wide receiver there. Smith's more of a, obviously, flex number 3 wide receiver option. Even though I think he's solid, he'll have his ball games here and there, is Devonta Smith. But like I said, he's definitely down in my rankings compared to last season. 28, another burner. Travis Hunter of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So he's at good value in that 6th, 7th round range. He's been going, is Travis Hunter. We know he was the Heisman Trophy winner. We also know they traded up a boatload to get him with the 2nd overall pick. Was his Jaguar team in the offseason. And right now in training camp, he's back end on the depth chart at corner, and they're going to use him as a number 2 wide receiver. I don't think you trade all that just for him to be a corner, because we don't see corners obviously go that early in the NFL draft. So I think Hunter's going to be primary a receiver most weeks than not. But like I said, receiving position's very deep, and some weeks he might be inconsistent if he's going to be playing corner some games as well. 29, Jalen Waddle of the Miami Dolphins. So Waddle, I've been down on him now over the last couple seasons. Last year, I thought he was going to bounce back, have a decent season, was Jalen Waddle. That didn't happen. Injuries, I think he's come out of shape as well into training camp as Jalen Waddle. And this whole Dolphin team, it depends on Tua. If Tua goes down, what are they going to do then? I know they got Zach Wilson at quarterback and the rookie back there as well, but I don't know if he's ready to go. And Jalen Waddle, like I said, he definitely looks like he lost a step, even though he's in the league only a couple seasons. Just don't think the ceiling is high. They got Tyreek Hill there. They got Devon Achane, one of the best receiving backs in the league. And also, Darren Waller came out of retirement, where he might take some work as well in the passing game. 30, Courtland Sutton of the Denver Broncos. He signed a nice contract extension a few weeks ago, was Courtland Sutton. He's a good route runner. He goes out there and make plays. And him and Bo Nix had a good rapport in Nix's rookie season last year. So Courtland Sutton, he got his money. Number 1 option. Not much going on in the receiving room. I know they signed Devin Ingram at the tight end position, which was a good move for this Denver Bronco team. But Sutton, I think, goes out there, and he's a solid fringe receiver too, or flex option for fantasy owners. 31, Jameson Williams of the Detroit Lions. Last year, finally, the breakout season it was for J-Mo. But the only thing is, a lot of mouths to feed over there in Detroit. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield, Sam Laporta, one of the better tight ends in the league. But he's got the home run ability. He could take a slant and to the end zone for 80 yards. We've seen it a bunch of times last season. So I like him as a perfect number 3 wide receiver flex option. 32, Calvin Ridley of the Tennessee Titans. So this offense can't get any worse than it was last season. They got the number 1 pick, Cam Ward, this year in the NFL draft. This guy's a grinder. This guy's a worker, is Ward. He's studying, and he wants to be the best quarterback he could be, putting in overtime already in training camp and practice sessions. So I think Calvin Ridley is a decent number 1 wide receiver to go with him on that roster. But some weeks are going to be growing pains, obviously, in this offense. I think Ridley, as a guy you get in the 7th, 8th round, his bench depth or 3rd wide receiver is pretty decent. 33, Jerry Jeudy of the Cleveland Browns. So this Brown team, we'll see who's going to be the starter. Joe Flacco or Shedeur Sanders, I believe, will be the starter. Shedeur looked good in his first preseason outing. Jerry Jeudy broke out last season, and that's what he needed, a change of scenery. And last year, with no-name quarterbacks for the most part, he was going out there and put up numbers as Jerry Jeudy. He's explosive. He's got home run ability, speed as well. And I like him this season as a fringe 3 receiver. 34, Juwan Jennings of the San Francisco 49ers. Brandon Ayuk, he's most likely going to be out the first few weeks of the season coming off of his ACL injury. And Juwan Jennings, I mentioned in other videos, him and Brock Purdy had a great rapport from playing with the second team over there in San Francisco before both these guys got elevated into the lineup. So, like I said, Juwan Jennings, he's going to step right in. He possibly could be the number 1. Debo in Washington, and Brandon Ayuk out with the torn ACL. Even though he wants a new contract, I still think he's going to report, and he possibly might get his money as well before training camp's over. 35, Chris Olave of the New Orleans Saints. The concussions have been an issue for Olave and other injuries over the last couple seasons. We know he's had some big years early on in his career. Now at quarterback, it's just going to be a revolving door, I think, for a little bit for this New Orleans Saints team. And Olave, like I said, another concussion, his career could be in jeopardy. So I'm not that big on Olave. As someone as a back-end bench piece, or if you want to roll the dice and have him your third receiver flex option, I could go with that. But like I said, I don't think the ceiling is that high as of now. 36, Jacoby Myers of the Vegas Raiders. Myers last year, over 80 catches. I know they got Brock Bowers, who had a monster rookie season, over 100 catches at the tight end position. They got Ashton Jeanty, one of the better running back prospects to come out in the last decade. So I think Myers, as a solid bench piece, could be decent for fantasy owners, but he's got an upgraded quarterback. Last year with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, he was putting up some decent numbers. Now to have Geno Smith, who's obviously a veteran and he knows how to get the ball to his number one wide receiver, I think Myers can have another solid year. 37, Rome Odunze of the Chicago Bears. So Odunze, they use good draft capital. Number 9 overall pick in the 24 NFL draft he was for the Chicago Bear team. And now with Keenan Allen gone in free agency, going back to the Chargers, Odunze is going to get more of a role with this team. And he's a big-time play receiver. We saw a couple big games out of him, no doubt about it, last season. But this all depends on Caleb Williams. And so far, Caleb, again, in training camp, he hasn't looked good. And last year, very inconsistent. He was as well at the quarterback position. 38, Khalil Shakir of the Buffalo Bills. He's the number one man over there. They brought in Cooper last season. He didn't do anything. He's a free agent. No one signed him. I know they got Keon Coleman, but Shakir, he caught about 85-90% of the passes that were coming to him last season. So he's got great hands, a good possession receiver. And when you're playing with arguably the best quarterback in the league in Josh Allen, it's going to be a bump up for you, no doubt about it. But like I said, when Allen's running ability and James Cook in the backfield, Shakir some games has big games and some games he don't do much. And Allen, we know, spreads that ball out all over the field to his receivers and tight ends as well. 39, Cooper Kupp of the Seattle Seahawks. I'm bigger on Kupp, I think, than Consensus and other fantasy podcasters and websites. Cooper Kupp, if you saw my draft series, a lot of times I was getting him in that 9th, 10th round range. A lot of people think he's washed, but I think Kupp has a little bit left in the tank, and obviously he wants to prove he does as well with the Rams. Released him and got Devontae Adams in his place in this receiving room. So Cooper Kupp, I know he's probably going to be the number 2 receiver over there in Seattle, behind JSN, and also as well, obviously, Sam Darnold's the quarterback. We'll see what he could do with his new team, even though last season he had a monster first half of the year in Minnesota. But I think Kupp could be decent, and he could surprise people. And if you get him in that 9th, 10th round range, and he could be a number 2 receiver, 3 option possibly for fantasy owners, that's a big get. And the 40th and final receiver I'm ranking is Stephon Diggs of the New England Patriots. I know there's been some off-the-field stuff here and there in videos surfacing, obviously, of Stephon Diggs. But right now, no word on a suspension. Him and Drake May, they're having fun in training camp from what I've seen. And he's easily the number 1 wide receiver. And he got a big payday in free agency from New England, even though he's coming off a torn ACL with the Texans last season. So Diggs, we know the upside. He was a top 10, top 12 pick overall in fantasy drafts for many seasons where he was with Buffalo. But last year, it was a mixed bag of results before he went down with the ACL. But Drake May is a good quarterback. They're big on him. And I think Stephon Diggs, he could be a nice back-end 3 flex options. That's a top 40 wide receivers I'm ranking going into the 2025 fantasy football season.